Hey there, Kimberly here, trying out this Facebook Live again. I am here in my office. You can see stuff all around, books. Anyway, I had a wonderful personal inquiry last night that I wanted to share with you because I think it's something that applies to all of us. Sometimes we have a gap between what we really desire and what we're experiencing our reality to be in any moment. And sometimes we can try to be working it out, figuring out details, figuring out how we can make it happen, figuring out how to use all of the resources at our disposal. And at times, we have all the resources necessary to say yes to a new move with our life work or a relationship or something we long for our heart, whatever it may be. And at other times, we find we don't have the resources necessary. So what does this mean? Does it mean that the desire that we have, that's a new form of creativity, isn't meant to be? I don't think so. I think that when inspiration arises within us, arises within our hearts, and it shows up as a true desire, there's something going on there, and we are meant to be creative, and we are meant to be free. And I have something like that happening right now for me, where a huge opportunity is before me that feels really right. And at the same time, I'm aware that I don't have all that I need to give that yes to the degree I'd want. I don't have all the money I need. I don't have other things that I need to give my type of yes to it. Well, as I was sitting with this last night, I was here in the office working away, and I went to the bathroom. And I don't know about you, but I find sometimes really great inspiration happens in the bathroom. So anyway, I'm in the bathroom, and out of nowhere comes this memory. And I felt like I was back as a child walking home to my house in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was on getting close to Smallwood Lane. That's where we lived. I was on Widhoff, I think is the street that led to it. And it was one of those days where the dandelions were on their way out and everything had gone to seed. Maybe you can relate to it. But as a little girl, I used to always pick those dandelions every day and make wishes. And I would watch as the seeds would blow off of the dandelion stalk and they'd float up into the air. And I was totally confident that my wish was going to heaven and it was going to be fulfilled. There wasn't a shadow of a doubt. Well, for quite a long time, my main wish was to be a ballerina. I would say probably 9 out of 10 dandelions that I blew the seeds off of the stalk, I was saying, I want to be a professional ballerina. And I had to probably be about 7 years old, maybe even 6. And I'd watch the seeds float up and I knew it was going to happen. Well, I had started taking ballet when I was 4. And my class was being instructed by this pretty well-known Austrian teacher. And she had that thick Austrian accent, and she would use a cane, and she would tap the floor as she was teaching us the timing that would go with all of the ballet, and I loved it. And my best friend, her name was Kim as well. It was Kim Hunt, and we worked so hard. Well, by the time we were 9 years old, can you believe she chose the two of us to go on to train for the Cincinnati Ballet, for the professional ballet? And after 5 years of being committed to ballet and going every week, my dream was coming true. Well, Kim's parents signed her up right away, and my parents didn't sign me up. They decided that ultimately I really would have been sad if I had left school, because back in those days, you gave up the rest of your education. You studied a little on the side to get the basic learning you needed, and other than that, you were immersed in the arts. And they really thought that with how much I loved school, and if you remember me back from that time, I would read. I read like 20 books a week. I was voracious in my learning. They really thought that I'd be sad, even though it was like my dream to be a professional ballerina. So they declined. And I was okay with that. And last night this memory came to me, like, well, what was up with that? I mean, that was my longing, that was my hunger, was to be a ballerina. And here I was content when the opportunity presented itself that my parents made another choice. And my parents always support us in living out our dreams. So they didn't have any other motives other than really being of service to what would make me happy, as they do for all their children. Well, I realized last night that I was contented because my young little girl heart was so pure that I could feel spirit in their choice. And I trusted that. But then an even deeper insight came to me last night. My dream is being fulfilled. Because to be a ballerina, it's to be grace in motion, right? I mean, ballet embodies this grace in form and in movement. And I realized that's what my life is about, to become divine grace in motion here on earth, more and more and more. And to be a catalyst and a facilitator that can happen in our world, greater grace, and that people would have that satisfaction. But it revealed something important to me that I think it's fairly universal, but I will speak only for myself, that I have never lived a tit-for-tat life. That it's always been this deeper current of spirit and of essence that I say yes to, and what's needed shows up to make it happen. So maybe I wasn't a ballerina, but I was having the fulfillment of my desires by being grace in motion. And that speaks to this idea of transactional action, right? Because we live in a cause and effect universe. We are part of the cause, we are part of the effect, we participate in that whole dance. And when we have a desire, let's say we have a desire for something as simple as a cup of coffee. The desire comes up, we decide to get into the car because we can, drive to the coffee shop because we can, pull out the money we have because we can, and produce the effect through a transaction of fulfilling that desire. Well, what if we always lived true and faithful to the deeper transactional action of our life? What would it look like? And do we believe that that's possible? Do we think that transaction is only linear, that it's an equation, that you put in so much time and you'll reap this certain reward? Or could it be that the transaction is recognizing the deeper creative essential movements of our soul desires and being so committed to that all our actions are at the service of that fulfillment, and we stand in the mystery of how it will happen? That is what we might call grace-filled or magic. But yet it's not so unknown, because we're familiar with our soul desires. There's something in us that rests into the coming home to what would make us most happy. So my question for you tonight is, what is the transactional action of your life right now? What's the current? How are you interfacing or doing the dance in the cause and effect of our universe? And could it be that while you participate in the layers that are more linear, that they could be a smaller part of the pie to the fulfillment of your desires? That your yes and no would stay true to the deeper movement of the soul and recognize it. When I wanted to be a ballerina, I didn't know that what I really wanted was to be grace in motion. I just wanted to embody the feel of what it would be to have my body and my heart and my mind and all that I was caught up in that being a ballerina. Openness to spirit let me realize that what I really wanted was not to be a ballerina necessarily, it could have been, but was to be this deeper embodiment. So what about you? What is the transactional action of your life? And how can you give a bigger yes to the deeper soul desires that are calling you, that are begging you? It will dismantle the doubts and the uncertainties, but it will also ignite and stoke the fire of your joy and your enthusiasm. And it doesn't mean that to be carrying out the details is trivial or tedious. It just puts all of that in proportion. How you use your time, where you spend your money, the friends you choose to be with, the beliefs you choose that are true for you. All of these are important and they're at the service of this. But they don't need to be the reason you give your yes and no. Hopefully that makes sense. So, it is so great to see so many of you on here. I would love if you wanted to post anything on Facebook that shares with me some of your ideas of transactional action. And I look forward to more Facebook Live with you. And if you want, do a Facebook Live in return. And I promise that I will respond. And if you respond tomorrow, I'll respond as well. So thank you for listening to my story. May we all be grace in motion. May we all penetrate what transactional action is really about, so that we can dissolve the frustration that can go into our understandably linear way that we can look at the fulfillment of our desires. Okay, that's it. Have a great, great, great night. I love you all, and I wish you many blessings. Thank you for your friendship. Bye. Mwah.